What's happening, everybody? It's a Thursday edition of the 24th floor. The Grizzlies get a little representation for All-Star Weekend, and we make the case for even more. Ole Miss Hoops gets a big win in Chris Beard's first matchup with his old squad, and we get you ready for the Tigers matchup in the Big Easy. All that and more, you're watching the 24th floor, and it starts right now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thursday afternoon. We're getting so close to the weekend. So many things to look forward to. Caleb, you already got something to look forward to for the weekend? Or what you doing,
Going
man?
golfing.
You're going golfing?
Yep. Found out like an hour ago going golfing.
You got a favorite course in Memphis? Answer the hurt question first.
Wait, what'd you say?
You gonna lose really bad?
Gonna lose really badly?
Well,
Shank it on 18.
Ben,
like you
who I'm
always do?
playing, who works here, beat me last time. And I'm terrible on the 9th and the 18th hole. I choke. Terribly.
You're a choke artist. Very Reggie Miller of you? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, very Reggie Miller.
Yikes.
Favorite course? I love Pine Hill. I don't have country club money, so I just
fair enough.
I go to the private courses.
None of us have country club money on this show.
Pine Hill is the best. If anyone has any driving tips for me, please let me know.
Rachel, weekend plans? What are you looking forward to?
Going to go watch a team I used to cover in UTEP. Yes, I was waiting.
Why are you
waiting a response of some sort from Caleb.
Oh my gosh, Caleb.
You might actually be down here. Huh?
Are you okay?
I just, whenever I hear Conference USA
Yeah.
basketball, I got
But did you know?
wow.
Did you know Conference USA basketball above the AAC in net rankings?
Yeah,
wow!
not-
So all
not
this
above
trash
Memphis.
talk that you do to Conference USA, it's time to get rid of it because they're a better conference than the AAC.
Rachel bringing out the facts. Who are you seeing? UTEP?
UTEP playing Middle Tennessee. A bunch of guys I used to know who still work for that team. It's about a 3-hour drive away. So I was like, why not?
One thing about Rachel, she is very loyal to the soil.
Yeah.
She loves, she's...
Cover them for 3 years.
Yeah.
Fun
They're part
fact,
of it.
UTEP are shooting a all-time franchise record high 38% from the field this season. It's a big year for the Miners.
Yeah,
It's third in the Conference USA.
I'm saying it's all lies because I doubt this man's researched anything about UTEP. But all right, sure.
That's very cool. I think I'm going to go see the movies this weekend. I don't know. We got to talk about some really cool things for the Grizzlies this year. Let's jump into our big idea. Shout out to the rookies. Jaylen Wells and Zach Edey have both been selected to the Castrol NBA Rising Stars game for rookies and second-year players. Both rookies have been phenomenal this season. Surprisingly, been staples in the starting lineup all year. Zach Edey, the 9th pick in the draft out of Purdue, putting up 9.7 rebounds and a block a game, second in the entire league in rebounds among the rookies and 4th in blocks. Jaylen Wells, on the other hand, leads all rookies in several categories, including points and three-point percentage, and the second-round pick out of Wazoo, often guarding the other team's best player every night, which you just really don't see with a rookie pretty much ever. There'll be a special draft to see which Rising Stars team the pair will be on next week so they could actually face off against each other during All-Star Weekend. Cool honor.
Go hang out. Trip probably gonna be there. John's gonna be there. All the guys are gonna be there. So hang out with them, kick it, just have a good time.
It actually wasn't that exciting. I was getting my blood drawn for a life insurance exam, and I just happened to look over and see a notification. I was like, oh, pretty cool.
For rookies coming in, making a mark, their roles, doesn't matter what their minutes are, they're making an impact on both sides of the floor, and for them to get that recognition, I told them, you two guys are definitely rising stars in this league, and you're going to have fun out there, All-Star break, but what's the mentality going to be? They said, keep working, keep getting better, and I love those responses from those guys.
A very cool honor for Jaylen Wells and for Zach Edey, something I think that it was not really a surprise for us at really any point of the season. Once you kind of get into that starting lineup and you have more opportunity than really anybody else in the league, I think it's really going to be very easy to slot them in there. But the impact that they've had on both sides of the floor for the Grizzlies this year cannot be understated. Zach Edey has stepped into that starting big man role. I think that's exactly what the Grizzlies were going to ask him to do when he got here. Hey, can you set screens? Can you play defense and defend the rim? Can you block shots? That's pretty much what he does, and that's what they've asked him to do, and I think he's filled that role pretty well. Still kind of finding his footing. Jaylen Wells, I think, has been the surprise to everybody who's ever seen the Grizzlies at all this year. His ability to not only score, I mean, he is leading all rookies in points, but for him to come in, and we've seen him guard Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball and Steph Curry and some of these other guys, for him to come in and do that, his two-way impact is very similar to what we see with some of these other people around the league when we talk about rising all-stars, a la Jalen Williams, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, very similar. I think that his three-point shooting has really set him apart. Like, his defense obviously is great. I think that that's a little bit, I don't know how long that'll last. I hope it does. But it's kind of like when a young player is lighting it up offensively, teams start to get the tape on them. Similarly, on defense, you can kind of game plan against a guy like Jaylen Wells. But what he's done so far this season is incredible. And I think it speaks to the Grizzlies organization as a whole. You know, they found Jaylen Wells. A lot of teams, I'm sure they had him on the board, but they didn't go out and get him. If they knew that Jaylen Wells had this potential, easily he could have gone on the first day. Easily. But the Grizzlies liked him. They like Cam Spencer as well. Cam Spencer's been a good player, even though he hasn't played that much this year. And then, of course, Zach Edey as well. It's a really smart organization, and it is epitomized by Zach Edey and Jaylen Wells.
Hindsight's 20/20, right? Oh, well, they didn't go get him. Well, nobody knew he was going to be anything like this, Rachel.
And I doubt the Grizzlies, like, yes, it was a great pick by them, but I doubt that they even thought that he had this under his belt this quickly. I'm sure they thought he'd grow in and develop into a great player, but to do what he's done so quickly, no one really saw it coming. And yeah, I'm not surprised that he's on the Rising Star All-Stars team, but if you told me that when he was getting drafted that he'd be on that team, heck no, not at all. Like, I mean, and that's no shade on him. I think he would probably even be like, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that no one thought I would be. I'm sure he always thought he would be because he's always had that underdog mentality. I'm going to prove to you that I deserve this spot, and we've seen it his entire career up until now, and I think we're going to continue to see it. I cannot help but laugh at where he was when he found out. He's the most
responsible.
He's the most
Jaylen
mild-mannered human. Like, he's just so cool, calm, collected, never too high, never too low, as we love to hear and say about athletes all the time. But he's truly the definition of that. Yes, in a life insurance office, getting his blood tested. Sir, you should be, I don't know,
Getting shots up, playing video games. I don't know.
Like,
Something like that.
what are you doing? Come on. Like, I love it. It epitomizes him. He's just so cool, calm, collected on the court and also off of it. And yeah, awesome achievement for him.
I think it's so funny that with these rookies, they're like a far cry from what Gigi Jackson was a year ago, right? As a rookie, Gigi still the youngest person on the team, but just so energetic, very comedic, very gregarious. He's going to talk a whole lot. And then you get into this draft class, and you have Zach Edey and Jaylen Wells, and they're just so businesslike, so professional. You know, you don't get a whole lot out of Zach Edey whenever we talk to him. You think this is like the biggest accomplishment he's had all year. We got like 20 words out of him about it.
Tripp's
going
to be there.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty cool. San Francisco, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's
like, no, dude.
We're like trying to get plans out of him. He's talking about, my mom will be there. That'll be cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure behind the scenes he's like,
I'm
my
sure,
God,
yeah,
I
he's
can't
feeling
believe
it,
this
of
is so
course.
cool. Yeah.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure that they get more excitement out of him, than we see for sure.
Yeah, that's funny. Jaylin especially. So that what happens with this particular Rising Star game, much like last year, they will kind of mix the All-Star teams up, right? So it'll be rookies and sophomores, but it'll be a combination of 4 different teams. They'll play like a mini tournament this year, which is pretty cool. And so what could actually happen is they could play against each other, which I think would be really funny. And we talked to Jaylen Wells. He said, well, I'd love for us to be on the same team, but if we don't, I might have to try and dunk on Zach Edey. Rachel, do you think Jaylen Wells is going to dunk off on Zach Edey? At 7'4".
Here's the thing. Jaylen Wells has surprised us all this entire season.
Yeah, fair.
So I wouldn't actually be surprised. Do I think he should do it? No. But, hey, go have some fun out there. It's All-Star Weekend.
Similarly, John Morant said he wanted to dunk on Jaren in an All-Star game. Do you see Jaylen Wells dunking on Zach Edey?
Yeah, I think he could do it. Why not? I think all of these guys have hops that are bigger than we actually expect to see. Have we seen Wells dunk in a game?
Yeah.
I feel like
we have.
We've never seen him cock one back.
Okay.
He's always, somebody described it on Twitter. I put the tweet out.
Last game.
Somebody described it on Twitter as he's got bunny hops, little bunny hops, not like hops. So I think that'll be really
hops
funny.
if he needs them.
He doesn't have the posterizer build though, but
Was this 2K?
Yeah, I don't know if you could. You'd have to get Edey on the side. It would have to be. It wouldn't be a poster. It would be Edey kind of on the side where he's like, oh no, Jaylen's coming at me. I got to make a business decision real quick because I can't get dunked on right now because you'll never hear the end of it in the locker room.
Yeah, 100%.
And there will be a poster in the locker room or something or a video replayed over and over. So, yeah, most likely not. But if it does happen, Edey's going to get to the side a little bit.
I think if Jaylen Wells were to get a dunk off on Edey, it would have to be like he's surprising Zach. You know what I'm saying? Like he gets a quick one and he just rises up and Zach's like, oh. Like you're actually doing this. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give it. I'm not like you said. Jaylen Wells has done nothing but surprise us all year. If he gets one off on Zach, I would be shocked, maybe not surprised because he's so good. So yeah, that game will be on the Friday before. Or the Friday of All-Star Weekend, February the 14th. But Wells and Edey aren't the only ones headed to Cali. Members of the Memphis Hustle are also stamped as G League All-Stars. Fan favorite Yuki Kawamura, Armando Bacot, DJ Stewart, and Malzina Pereira all selected to the G League Up Next game. That'll be on Sunday in the Moscone Center in San Francisco. Congrats to all the G League All-Stars as well. So what we got to talk about here coming up, though, is the actual All-Star game will be, the reserve announcements will be tonight at 5:30. And so what we'll have to actually going to discuss here on the show is the pool of All-Star players for the West Reserves. We're only going to do the West Reserves because for the sake of brevity, but these are the front court players. Alperen Sengun, Victor Wembanyama, Jalen Williams, Jaren Jackson Jr., Anthony Davis, Domantas Sabonis, and Andrew Wiggins. For the guards, Luka Doncic, and Edwards, Kyrie Irving, Ja Morant, James Harden, De'Aaron Fox, and Devin Booker and Norman Powell of the Los Angeles Clippers. So, for the sake of brevity, we will only do the West All-Stars because we could be here all day. We try to go both ways, but we got to figure this out. Do the Grizzlies make the All-Star team one of them? Rachel, I'm going to start with you. Mm-hmm. Who's on your All-Star reserve team?
Okay, I'm going to start out by saying no matter which way you look at this, no matter how you slice or dice it, there are people that are missing out on this All-Star team that probably should be on it, or you could make a case where there's just not enough people purely that are available to go on.
I think we would agree with that statement. That is a correct
So the
statement.
way I did this then was to put down who I thought had to be on there and then kind of elimination from there. So for me, Anthony Edwards is taking one of those guard spots for sure. Victor Wembanyama taking one of the front court spots. Anthony Davis as well. I've got Jaren Jackson Jr. on there for sure as a wild card. I don't think he gets a front court spot, but he's a wild card for me. So then from there I go, okay, who am I keeping on? Kyrie Irving was my other guard that I went with. Then I've got Sengun as well, and then Sabonis. They were my round-out picks for my All-Stars. But Jaren Jackson Jr. I think has to be on there, in my opinion. It's the same with Sengun. I think the Rockets and Grizzlies are so high up. I think you got to allow winning to take precedent and give them that bonus because without them, their teams are not where they are right now in the standings. So I think that's a big reason why both those guys should be.
In kind of a head-to-head, I mean, Alperen Sengun's got the one-up on Jaren, right? The Rockets are 3-0 against the Grizzlies this year. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Caleb, who's on your All-Star reserves list?
Well, you have to look at someone like Luka Doncic, right? He's probably not going to play.
Yeah.
So he would be an
also missed more than half of his team's games
Yeah.
this year. So I think Luka's probably a tough one to add.
Yeah, Luka's probably a tough one, averaging 28 points per game. I don't know. I mean, Kyrie Irving has played so well in his absence. There have been 3 games where he's played terribly, and I feel like they've kind of flagged him. Some people have kind of flagged him for that. But for the most part, he's averaging 24 points per game, and so I've got to put him in there in the backcourt. And then, of course, Anthony Edwards as well, the other one in the backcourt. Front court, Wemby, AD, and then I have Sabonis as well, and Jaren Jackson and Sengun as my wild cards.
Okay, so you guys are on
we got
one
the
accord.
same.
Yeah, we got the same.
Wow. And we didn't, by the way, for everyone watching, there was no communication between us as to who we were going with. This was completely...
I had someone.
You had to keep it secret, for sure.
I had Jalen Williams, and I scratched out his name, as you could see right here. Jalen Williams was on there. Jalen Williams was on there. But I decided to scratch him off and put Sengun. I don't know if you could see. I got terrible handwriting. Here, I'll circle it for you.
Your chicken scratch, for sure. On my list, I have Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Davis, Domantas Sabonis, Ant Edwards, Kyrie Irving, Jaren Jackson Jr., and I actually gave Jalen Williams the nod.
Oh,
because I'm giving. Okay, listen to my rationale. Hold on. First of all, the fact that y'all agreed on anything, I'm incredibly surprised by it because y'all don't agree on nothing.
Elite ball knowledge.
Elite ball knowledge. All right, whatever. both Jackson Jr. and Jalen Williams are my wild card picks, right? I think you got to make the case for them, both because what they do, they have some of the best two-way impact in the NBA on both sides of the ball. Jalen Williams' stats this year: 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.8 steals. He is in a lot of cases going to guard the other team's best player, much like we talk about Jaylen Wells will do for this team. But for me, because the Thunder are so far ahead in terms of the West, being first where they are, I think they're 6.5, 7 games between them and the Houston Rockets. That's where I felt like that's deserving of giving a two-way star. I think Jalen Williams is very similar to like what we talk about with Desmond Bane, where he's incredible offensively, but they're actually better. They have a positive net rating when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not on the floor. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I'm like, okay, that means Jalen Williams is taking on the brunt of the load when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not on the floor. SGA's been phenomenal this year, probably their best player. As the second best player on that team, he has been really, really good. Jaren Jackson Jr., in the same vein, one of the best two-way players in the league. He may not put up the gaudy stats that some of these other guys may put up offensively, but I think when you watch it, he's been so good every single year or every single game this season. Defensive player of the Western Conference Player of the Week this past week. I think he's been so good. I don't know how you can leave him off. I agree. I had Kyrie Irving in mind. I was kind of a toss-up between him and maybe Norman Powell, simply because the Clippers have been so good this year, and Norman Powell's probably been their best scorer. But for me, Kyrie Irving keeping the Mavs afloat with no Luka Doncic, I just think he's been so good for so long. He kind of gets that legacy nod a little bit. You're gonna laugh at 24 points, 4 assists, and 41% from 3, but they're 10-7. Got a winning record with just Kyrie there in the Irving. Kyrie there in the lineup, not the Irving. I think
Kyrie's
really
got to make it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Kyrie's got to make it. You're looking at someone like Devin Booker, or was De'Aaron Fox in that pool? You could make a case for either of them. Their stats are very similar. I think Devin's like at 24 points per game.
Yeah.
De'Aaron's around that as well.
Booker's at 25, actually. 25
Booker's at 25. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what Fox is, but Fox is close. And so you could make a case. But I think everything going on with Fox right now, it probably affects that in some type of way.
It's the coaches who vote, though, for the reserves.
Yeah, I just feel like just with the way the NBA works, like something could be going on there. And maybe that plays into it a little bit. I'm talking about the trade rumors around De'Aaron. Devin, I just think that he hasn't – the Suns have been kind of let down a little bit this year. He's been inconsistent through stretches. Recently, he's been really good. Kyrie's been inconsistent as well, but I think with Luka being out, you got to think like all-stars are a mix of MVPs, most valuable players for their teams. That's typically how it works. And so far this season, Kyrie slightly edges out Luka for the MVP of the Mavs just because he's played more games. He's had to fill in that void with Luka being out. Teams game plan against him, and he's still able to get buckets. So, yeah, I think that it's close. For me, Şengün getting the nod over Jalen Williams is because the Rockets have been so good this year.
Got to reward the winning.
He's been their best player. I mean, you've seen, Memphis fans, you've seen what he's done to the Grizzlies.
3 times.
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah, 3 times. Absolutely has destroyed them every single time. He is borderline unguardable, whereas Jalen Williams – it's very close.
Yeah.
I like Jalen Williams.
It's a toss-up.
lot.
It's easily a toss-up.
I can't really make a case against Jalen Williams. But earlier today, you were not having Jalen Williams.
I mean, I think you go back and look through it. It could be a toss-up. I agree that Şengün is certainly worthy of being an all-star. I think anybody in that reserves pool list is worthy of being an all-star. Like, at first I was like, Sabonis, really? But then you look at how good he's been. It's like, how do you leave him off? The only knock you have against him is that the Kings aren't really playing that well. You know what I'm saying? And I think that was kind of where I leaned when I left off of Devin Booker, right, over there, 9th in the West right now. It's like, your team is good. You got KD there, so you have some Phoenix representation. But some of these other, it's really hard. The West is like, it's a gauntlet in terms of really good players. I think if we decided to do the East, we'd probably all agree like the East is pretty easy. But
We were pretty similar though. Like realistically, the three of our.
I am
teams.
shocked that y'all are on one accord. I thought
I
it
don't
was
really disagree on NBA stuff. Except I tricked all of y'all. Andrew Wiggins over Alfred Şengün.
Absolutely not.
No, I'm just kidding. But Andrew Wiggins, borderline all-star. The Warriors haven't been good this season, and partially that is because Andrew Wiggins and turnovers and bad shooting percentage in some games. But Andrew
your
Wiggins,
soapbox over there, mate.
borderline all-star. I just want to say that. Andrew Wiggins, the only name not mentioned out of everybody. So.
Including you, who's
Including you.
it's
That's
your
your team.
team.
Yeah.
No,
If
I'm
anyone's
saying
gonna
throughout
rock
the-
it's meant
yeah,
to go.
No, I'm not saying on our list. I'm saying throughout this whole discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what I think we're finding within this discussion is that there's always going to be somebody left off. I mean, this happens pretty much every year, but LeBron, KD, and Steph still being starters on the All-Star team in the West. They're all 35 years or older. It's kind of like I'm not kind of that kind of person that's gonna be like, oh, they need to ride off into the sunset and give somebody else a chance. But nobody else is going to get a chance
Until they're done.
until they decide that they're done and they're still playing so well. They're getting fan vote because of their legacies in the league, but they've all been playing so well that it's like you can't even really give them a knock. You could maybe put them in the reserve pool, but the way they've played this year, certainly deserving of being all-star starters, and we're not going to see anybody else. We got to talk about what's going to happen tonight. The Memphis Grizzlies taking on the Houston Rockets. This will be the fourth and final time that these two teams play this season, and so far the Rockets have absolutely smacked them in every way, shape, form, fashion, and way you could do it. So, Caleb, I'm going to start with you. No way my voice just cracked out. Caleb, I'm going to start with you. What has to happen tonight in the Grizzlies game against the Rockets? Y'all take me off the three-way. I'm not going to be in the shot anymore.
Well, Ja's questionable tonight. He probably won't play. Most likely will not play. Just with the way that they've been listing questionable players and them being out, that's typically how it goes. And so it's going to be the
Probably questionable this morning, too.
This morning. Jaren's going to have to carry the load. And it's really going to be a battle between. Listen, Şengün's going to get his buckets. It's going to be a battle between him and Jaren, and they'll have to bring J-Huff in, and J-Huff cannot guard Şengün. We've seen that. Edey did pretty well against Şengün, to be honest with you, but in the last game against the Rockets, he got in foul trouble. So, keys to victory: Edey needs to stay out of foul trouble, and so does Jaren. The other one is Jaylin Green. You've got to corral him. You have to corral Jaylin Green. If you don't, then it's going to turn out like it was in the last game in Houston when he exploded for like 41 points.
42.
42.
It gets worse.
42 points. He was hitting crazy shots, though. It wasn't terrible defense. I would say that that's the game where Wells looked the most lost because they did have him matched up against Green for parts of the game. But he was hitting some crazy shots over multiple Grizzlies players.
It was one of those nights where as a Grizzlies fan or as a Grizzlies player, you just kind of got to like tip your cap, clap, and be like, it's your night. I mean, he hit 1-3. Jalen Green did over Jalen Wells, and I forget who the other person was. I think it was Jarrett.
It was like towards the bench.
Yeah, in the corner, and you're looking at it, and you're just like, how the heck do we compete with that?
Yeah.
And at that point, that put him up near 40 points. It wasn't even like it was earlier in the game. Rachel, what has to happen for you in this game? I think you're going to have the Şengün argument as well, yeah?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, look, this game is one we know the Grizzlies won. They've lost, obviously, all 3 times this year they played them, but the last 2 coming just 4 days apart. One was a 2-point loss. The other one was a 4-point loss. The Grizzlies want this one. We heard Luke Kennard today at Shoot-Around say, this is one that we want to get back. It's almost like they kind of circled it. They know it's a time to prove that they can play with some of the best and play against some of the best. I think you mentioned Ja Morant probably being out tonight, and that is, to me, a really tough spot for the Grizzlies to be in. In both of those games in January, Ja put up game highs for both games. So he had 27 one game, 29 the other, combined for 56 total points, and he was the best player on the court in both those games. Not having him...
Not named Jalen Green.
Yes, best player for the Grizzlies. On that floor. And I think it's just so tough for the Grizzlies to go into this game without him. Like, yes, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been playing great basketball lately. Dez, Jaylin, there's going to be so many guys that will step up, but I think against a top opponent like the Rockets, it's going to be really tough for them to do it without Ja if he doesn't, in fact, end up playing. To me, it's the same thing always with the Grizzlies that we've been saying lately. It's the turnovers. We saw them have 26 against New York, and that led to 36 points. And it's It's too many. When they played the Rockets in those 2 games earlier this season, 19 turnovers for 31 points, 17 turnovers for 22 points. You're just handing points away. When you look at the Grizzlies and the Rockets on paper, the Grizzlies actually, in most statistical categories, are a better team.
Mm-hmm.
It's the turnovers is the one real area which is just firmly Houston. The Grizzlies struggle with that every time. They struggle with it against most teams, but against Houston particularly, and they just haven't been able to close it out in those final moments. And that's what, as much as not having Ja there to score the points throughout the game, but not having him there to close it out is a concerning factor for me. I have no doubts that Jaren will be able to stand up and do his part like he has been doing all season long. But I think against a team as quality as the Rockets, it's going to be a really hard one if Ja doesn't play.
And don't let Thompson get hot either. That's a big thing for me.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. I think for the Grizzlies, you want this one because you never want to let any team sweep you, right? We're talking about you've been beat 3 times already. If you get swept 2 times in your own building, that's not going to sit well with you when it comes to getting into the playoffs, right? Because there's no telling how the seeding will end up here towards the end of we get towards the second half of the season. Obviously, the Rockets are sitting there second in the West. They already have the tiebreaker, right? You got to get this one. But more than that, like one-to-one rivalry, I think at the same time, like you got a bad taste in your mouth after that Knicks game. I mean, that was just absolutely
Butt whooping.
I don't even know if "butt's" the word I would use, but we got another word I can't use
outclassed
here on the
every
podcast.
sentence.
Yeah, completely outclassed. You just say it so classy, so class. Tail whooping, can of whoop. Hey, I'm gonna get off it. But that game was so bad. I think that was one of probably the worst effort performances we've seen from the Grizzlies. I think when you look at it, 3rd game in 4 days, you're like, okay, it's maybe one you might have, I don't want to penciled in as a loss, but not 40 points. Not in the Garden, right? And so that game actually put them at 12-11 against 500 teams in the West. We've seen all this extra drama with some of the players in terms of Ja and Jake LaRavia deleting their Twitter pages and all that kind of stuff. If you're the Grizzlies, you need this one as a shot in the arm.
Culture win.
A culture win. Especially because on that same night, Dillon Brooks puts up 30 points and hits 10 threes, and he's feeling himself. So he's going to come into this matchup in particular feeling real good about himself, and I think what we know about Dillon Brooks is that his energy is infectious, right? So
Yeah.
Grizzlies got to get this one. That is going to be a late tip, 8:30 tonight, and hopefully between now and then we'll find out that Jaren Jackson Jr. is an all-star reserve.
Well, the number 23 Ole Miss certainly bounced back last night after losing their last 3 games, but it wasn't easy. Ole Miss taking on Texas, and it's Chris Beard's revenge game. It's the first time Beard has coached against his former team since they fired him in 2023. Texas jumped out to an early 10-point lead, but Sean Padula and Ole Miss put together an 8-0 run to pull within 1. The rest of the half was a tight, nitty-gritty affair, but Padula added some finesse right before the half, dropping off his defender in East Oxford and laying it in. Texas would take a 38-34 lead in the half. In the second half, the Rebels defense began to wrangle the Longhorns, and Jamin Brakefield gets to steal Matt Morrell, as you just saw, with that nasty no-look pass to Dre Davis. Then at the end of the game, Collierville High School standout Davon Barnes ices it with 2 clutch free throws, and the Rebels would go on to win 72-69. After the game, Sean Padula talked about his team's resiliency.
That was kind of the message this past week. Just we know how good we can be whenever we're playing our hardest and playing our best and taking care of the ball and getting good shots. And even though we got down like 13, I think, or whatever it was at the beginning of the game, we knew we could be in the game. We were making some mistakes. We knew where we were having some errors. So it was just about playing our style of ball and doing what we practiced all week.
Caleb, you're in the building for this one. What'd you think?
Yeah, we were just talking about the Grizzlies needed a culture win. This was a culture win for the Rebels. Texas was on a hot streak there, had come off of 2 ranked wins. Coming into Oxford, they had a full head of steam coming out. Looked really good in the opening minutes, really in the first half through the first 10 minutes of the second half. But Ole Miss's defense just really did a great job of making Texas uncomfortable. And it paid off at the end. Texas were still making some tough shots. They were getting to the free throw line in the second half. They pretty much could not get to the free throw line, and they were making it difficult on Ole Miss, but Ole Miss figured out how to get to the free throw line. I think that it's telling for Ole Miss because you had two guys, Jamin Brakefield and Dre Davis, who haven't been the team's leading scorers, but Jamin twice this season, step up in a big way. Once again, these teams planned for Malik Dia. Dia's shots weren't falling early, and the way Chris Beard and his coaching staff work, if your shots aren't falling, I'm pulling you out. That's why Juju Murray didn't get to start for an entire month, is because of the way he started the season. You know, he's starting again because he's starting to hit his shots. But no one is safe on this team. Dre Davis at the same time was hitting his shots. He was playing physical. Chris Beard in the past has said if Dre Davis is playing with energy and he's being physical, he's one of the best players on the team. If he's not, he's an average player. And I completely agree, but the best version of Dre Davis came out tonight, and he had missed the last game. And so Chris Beard said that most players would not have played last night. You don't really know because in college basketball, the injuries, you know, they don't have to disclose what's actually wrong with them.
Right.
And I couldn't really tell what was taped up, what wasn't, but Beard said that he was in a lot of pain. Same with Matt Morrell, too. Both of those guys have been in the training room for hours and hours. And so for them to come in and really beat a borderline top 25 team, Chris Beard says that they're one of the best teams in the country, that being Texas. For them to come in and close it out after not being able to close out Mississippi State and then Texas A&M, and then the Missouri game was by 7-10 points, something like that. But it was really a two-possession game, and then they blew it with missing a shot at the end and having to foul, and Missouri got free throws. And so for them to be able to close this game out, Davon Barnes, we haven't said Davon Barnes' name all season.
All year.
All he did was
all year until he missed those free throws against Texas A&M.
Yeah, that was that's true. Was that Davon Barnes that missed those?
Mm-hmm.
And he was 6 of 6 from the free throw line, and they said Padula said that that's something he's been working on constantly, and so it was really cool to see Davon be able to hit those shots. So the pavilion was so loud, as you can probably hear and see the fans in that video. When Davon stepped up, total silence. No one was in there. Yeah, no one was.
Don't say a word.
It was crazy. Yeah,
I feel like that would almost be more distracting to me because it's been so loud the entire game, and then just silence. I feel like everyone's just looking at you, which obviously they are, but in that moment you're like, oh my god, tunnel vision all on me.
Yeah.
But shout out to Davon Barnes because shout out to Sam Hutchins with the Clarion Ledger. He wrote the story, but I was reading through some of the recaps of this game, and Chris Beard said that after the Texas A&M game, he had kind of checked in on the pavilion. He's about to walk out for the night, right? And who does he see shooting free throws at the end of that game, or after, way after that game was already been done? It was Barnes. And so when it came down to putting him at the free throw line again there towards the end of the game, he said, I would put everything I got that Davon Barnes was going to hit that shot or hit those free throws there at the end of the game. So incredible win, for Ole Miss, because I think when we talked about them on Monday, we were saying, if they lose this one, a fourth in a row, we're talking about the train coming off the rails here a little bit, right? And I think they righted the ship. Now, when they came out of the game and Texas got up by 13 points early on, I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's looking like this might be a pretty ugly one. But to Kayla's point, Dre Davis comes out there. I thought he was scoring well, but I thought he was really just the emotional boost that the Rebels really needed in this game. He came out there, he's bumping with the Texas bigs. He gets an outlet and a dunk, and he's like doing the dinosaur yell, right, to the crowd. He's pumping his chest. And I think the Rebels really needed that in this game because they haven't necessarily had somebody who gives them that same kind of energy. And I think they probably missed it against Mizzou. So Dre Davis coming in there and giving them the shot in the arm they needed was great. Jamin Brakefield, I thought, was phenomenal. His ability to play really good defense. And then they figured out how to guard Trey Johnson, who had, I think, 13 or 14 in the first half. He was getting whatever he wanted. He was making great passes. They figured out how to kind of shut him up there for really maybe the first half of the second half, got him back in the game, and then there were so many lead changes and ties. It was a good game to watch. But yeah, shout out to Chris Beard's team for getting the win. And I know he wanted this one, right? Chris Beard, you know he wanted this one, knowing that he was the old head coach there for the Texas Longhorns. He goes to see Rodney Terry again, who was his old assistant coach. This was a great win for Ole Miss, and one that they needed because Texas had beaten the two ranked teams that they had just lost to, or two of the three.
Yeah, a massive, massive win for Ole Miss. Can't be understated. But now it's all attention on this Saturday, hosting the #1 team in the country in Auburn. It's going to be tough. Like, no other two ways about it. I would be really shocked if Ole Miss can pull this one out. But I think it's going to be an interesting one to see if they can or can't. To me, the biggest thing with this game is it always comes down to the rebounding and taking the ball away from Auburn as many times as possible. They've got the best offensive rating in the entire country, and for good reason, right? They've got one of the best players in the country on their team as well. But to me, it's, okay, Ole Miss are so good at stealing the ball. They're so good at turning a team over. Their rebounding hasn't been great. But if they can keep steals and turnovers at a high and then also get rebounds, that's hard to go against, no matter how good you are offensively, because you're just not getting as many chances and opportunities. I think if we can see those two things kind of come together, which is what we saw against number 4 Alabama, they just weren't giving Alabama all these second options and choices and plays, and every time there was even an option to turn it over, Ole Miss were taking it and scoring down the other end. I think that's so massive for a team that is so strong on defense, and that's what helped them get it back into that game against Texas yesterday, was their defense and really just being in their face and getting the ball away from them. If there's any chance, in my mind, that Ole Miss can get it done against the number 1 team in the country, who has only lost once, might I add, this season.
Best start in program history, 19-1.
To Duke earlier this season. It's those 3 keys. But I really think it's going to be a tough one for them. I'd love to see them pull it out. I think it'd be incredible. I could just imagine the pavilion absolutely going off. They'd be storming the court for sure.
They might shake the foundations out there if they didn't win over Auburn.
But it's going to be tough.
Ole Miss and all of their SEC opponents have shot less than 45%. They've held them under 45%. Auburn is averaging right around there, a little bit over that. And so that'll be really key. And they've held 3 teams under 40%, including last night against Texas. And so that's going to be key. Something that I think that's hard to kind of see in these games is, yes, Ole Miss is not as an efficient team as Memphis, right? You know, they're not going to shoot around 52% from 3, you know, not necessarily on every night. But at the same time, it might look ugly, but they're holding teams to their 3rd worst, 2nd worst, 1st worst shooting game of the entire season. They've done that to a lot of teams this year. They're disruptors. That's how they win games. And that's how Chris Beard believes they're going to make a run in the tournament. But you need different players to step up every night. And Malik D is going to have to be huge, like he was against Alabama when he racked up a massive double-double, which included 18 points. Now, Malik was quiet last night, but he is quietly rising in the Rebels ranks. He's one of the best players on the team. We take you on his pilgrimage to Oxford next on the 24th floor. Which camera, 2?
The weather affects us every day, but some days are more impactful than others. In Memphis, we get it all. From heat waves, severe storms, snow, and ice. As a meteorologist, it's my job to keep you safe on those impactful days. Don't get caught off guard and know what to expect with ABC 24 Weather Impact Days.
The 24 Plus app. Watch us live and continue with us on 24 Plus. And get extended coverage of weather and breaking news. The 24 Plus app. ABC 24 is making your voice heard.
This city is filthy, it's crime infested, and somebody need to do something about it.
Listening to your concerns.
We could have such a great city if we really just put the time and energy into it and come up with solutions.
And getting results for you.
We appreciate 24 for coming out.
Getting the issues taken care of.
When you put it on ABC 24, somebody gonna listen.
ABC 24, seeking solutions for you.
I just love working on this morning show.
We really are like one big family. Myself, Yvonne, Ruben.
You're probably gonna like what you see and what you hear, and you're gonna leave being informed and having a little bit of fun at the same time.
ABC 24 News this morning.
The news never stops, so we're taking you beyond the broadcast with ABC 24 Plus.
Continuing coverage of the issues that matter to you.
We need to get something done.
More interviews and stories that dig deeper.
The Lord has a plan, is all I know.
We'll take you beyond the scores and highlights for local sports coverage you can't find anywhere else.
Plus, on-demand forecasts to keep you weather aware.
ABC 24 News right now on ABC 24 Plus.
Welcome back to the 24th floor. Well, growing up in Georgia and later Nashville, Malik Dia loved playing basketball, but he never really believed he could play past high school until one day when his dad realized his true potential and everything changed. Now he's playing in front of thousands in Oxford.
One day it just kind of clicked. He just told me, if you really want to do this, you got to start working hard. You got to dedicate a lot more time. So ever since then, I just gave my all to the game of basketball.
Dia's countless hours of work with his dad made him the 5th highest rated player in Tennessee. Colleges from all over the country wanted to sign the big man, but ultimately he chose to stay home and become a Commodore.
They did an unbelievable job getting me prepared and essentially helping me now, being in the SEC early at a young age as a freshman.
Dia played for 1 season as a role player at Vanderbilt and decided to transfer to a school a couple blocks over, Belmont University.
I kind of installed that confidence in me the second year, realizing that I feel like I'm one of the better players in the country and being able to showcase my skill set.
Full of confidence and wanting to showcase his talents on a bigger stage, Dia decided to come back to the SEC to join Chris Beard's Rebels, whose belief in Dia is paying off.
Yeah, Dia's a talented player. Can do a lot of different things on both ends. He's not a traditional big. He's a guy that cares about his craft. He puts in the time. He works. And so you pull for guys like that.
From countless hours training with his dad as a kid to putting in work at Ole Miss, Diaz emerged as the Rebels' leading scorer, averaging 15 points and 8 rebounds in the month of January. Despite his borderline star status, Dia and the rest of the Rebels have adopted a selfless mentality, and it is leading to success this season.
I think we're all stars in our own way, and whoever has that opportunity, that game is big time. But shout out to Matt, shout out to all the guys, man. We're just really excited, and we're doing something special.
Well, after their best performance in conference play this year, a 177 win over the preseason AAC #1 picks in the UAB Blazers, the number 19 ranked Memphis Tigers are back on the court tonight. Taking a trip to Tulane, Penny Hardaway said it was easy for the Tigers to get up to play the Blazers and make a statement. But now it's about finding the motivation for every conference opponent left on the calendar. And that all starts tonight with the Green Wave, a team they haven't beaten in New Orleans since 2020.
I think they're starting to understand that we want something bigger, right? So I asked them the question, how do you guys get into the mind frame that myself and Nick have from being here and understanding that we let the rope go last year and that we can't do that this year and that every game is personal when you just got here? And they all just said, hey, man, we're together, we're family, we understand.
In my mind, this is an easy one for the Tigers to get up for. You talk about them wanting to go beat UAB because they were the preseason #1 picks and won last year. Tulane is a team that I think they also get up for. We've seen Memphis struggle against Tulane, obviously, over the years. And naturally, like Penny's saying, it's only really him and Nick who remember those struggles because no one else was there. But it sounds like this team is together. That's been the biggest thing we've heard from Penny all season long, is that this team is different to last year's. They care about what they're going to achieve this year and going and doing something special and not just letting the conference schedule go like they did last year as a team. Obviously, so many guys different this year, only one returning scholarship player in Nick Jourdain, but I think to me this is an easy game to get up for. It's not like Tulane is a bad team at all in the AAC. They're one of the top teams there. I think they're ranked 4th right now. But from Memphis, I really want to see them come out with the same energy they played with against UAB. That was such an impressive performance. We talked about it a lot on Monday, that it was the team that we all knew they could be, and it was great to finally see it come to fruition after so many tight games. I don't want to see them fall back into old habits and play some of the games we'd seen against Wichita State and North Texas, who's obviously a good team, but just those close games that shouldn't be close and don't need to be close. This game tonight shouldn't be close. Memphis should win easily, in my mind. And I want to see that performance again that we saw similar to UAB.
Well, Rachel said it perfectly. You don't even got to talk about anything else. She put a bow on it. No, you're absolutely right. This is a Memphis team. I think it almost plays to this Tigers team's advantage that a lot of those guys are not on this, or a lot of the guys on this team were not on last year's team, because I think you don't necessarily get the same kind of jitters maybe that you would because you were on that team and you remember what happened. And this Tulane loss that they had last year was part of the 4 games that they lost in a row in the AAC, right? So I think you would probably lock up a little bit if you were on that team. Maybe we'll see that from Nick Jourdain. I hope that's certainly not the case. But for this team, 2020, the last time they beat Memphis in Tulane, I think something about Tulane and New Orleans, like the voodoo is a serious thing. I think it might be a real thing because Ron Hunter, the head coach for Tulane, always has those guys ready to play when they take on Memphis. And it's bad enough that you're going to be everybody's like quote-unquote Super Bowl T-shirt game, whatever you want to call. Ron Hunter got something against Penny Hardaway because he does not let him win in his building. Shadow boxing before the game. Yeah, these are all things that we've seen. But on a more serious note, Tulane is one of those teams they have a strength where the Tigers have a deficiency, right? Tulane has forced 14 or more turnovers in 4 of the 7 AAC games. They are one of the best teams defensively that the Tigers are going to see this year. In terms of rankings, they're top 3 in so many, 2 of which scoring defense, 68.5 points allowed per game, and field goal D, which is 39%. Now, I'm not saying that the Memphis offense is not prolific because they are. They're a really, really good offense, but they're going to have to be very judicious with the basketball. They have to take care of the ball. They're one of the worst teams in the country, and we've talked about this before. We talked about it with the Grizzlies as well. They're one of the worst teams in the country at taking care of the ball, which almost doesn't make sense because P.J. Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter, who have the ball in their hands most of the time, are so prolific offensively. So for me, if you can hold on to the ball, even if you don't have 13 or 14, which we certainly don't want to see, if you can hover around between like 8 and 10, that's a big improvement. That's going to be more shots, more possessions for this team. And I think if they can take care of the ball, I agree with you, Rachel. I don't think this game will be close.
Yeah, and goodness.
Wow,
Penny,
both of you today. We've got the voice cracks.
Penny's definitely going to get them up for this game because of what Tulane did last year. They stormed the court. A student shoved David Jones on the court, which was ridiculous.
After David missed 2 free throws to tie the game, by the way.
Yes, yeah. After David choked at the end, yeah. And then, of course, they went on that winless run, and so I feel like they're going to get him up for this game. Also, Hunter's going to do something before the game because he always does. Yeah, that's what average coaches do. They have to do something crazy so they get noticed. And that's what he is. Georgia State before that. So,
yes,
he's got I don't know where he's from. I don't know if he's from.
Went to the tournament. Took him to the tournament.
Yeah, he knocked off a big team in the tournament, too, with Georgia State. He's going to do something. These guys are very, very cool, calm, and collected. We were talking about never too high, never too low with Jaylen Wells. That's what pretty much this entire team is. Colby Rogers being one of those guys. He's going to be massive tonight. When Colby Rogers has scored 16 or more points, Memphis have beaten UNLV, UConn, Clemson, and Ole Miss. Those are all 4 big, big wins. Tulane ain't any of those teams. Colby can go out there and get 16, add a little bit from Tyrese, and then PJ's going to get his 22, 23, 24, 25, whatever, and keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah. Keep running it up.
Not 3, not 4, not 5.
But I will say for Memphis fans, this is a big game. This team is already beloved by the fan base, but if they can go in and get the first win since 2020 in that high school arena down in Tulane,
you're throwing a lot of shots out there today.
It's the second. I'm pretty sure they're the second lowest attendance in the AAC. Which
well, they're going to turn out for tonight's game. You know that.
Well, yeah, because it's free to go. What are you talking about? Ron Hunter's going to drive people to the game tonight. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah. What are the students going to do? I mean, the students would rather go hang out on Bourbon Street or whatever.
Yeah.
Than
they get free hot dogs at this game. They also get like light up little, I don't know what they're called. Like these things, but light up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Clappers?
Yeah. They can,
Thunder sticks.
They can
Those
clap
that's
while
the word.
Colby Rogers is dropping threes on their head. They're so close. They're going to be so close they can feel the heat coming off of Colby Rogers' body. That's how small that arena is. I'm not exaggerating. It's an extremely small arena, and they stormed the court last year, and about 900 of them were on the court. I think that this game means a lot to the fan base. It means a lot to Penny Hardaway. He wants to get this off of his back. I'm not saying Penny Hardaway dislikes Hunter at all. I'm sure that they're boys off the court, that they're friends.
Respect each other.
He has to because he's beat them every time he's come down to New Orleans. So
no choice.
Penny is going to get the guys up for this game if they can play the same way they did in the first half versus UAB, and for most of the game against UAB. But going into the half, they had like 4 turnovers against UAB.
And then had 9, 10 in the second half.
Yeah. It was kind of a stretch there where they just were, it was lackadaisical passing. If they can clean that up, but Hunter's teams are always so intense. And so that's something that I see them struggling with tonight. But if they can clean it up, I think that there's going to be a patch of this game where Memphis look awful. And it's going to look like they're going to have to climb out of it, which is something that we've seen them do this year, something we haven't seen them do this year. And so I don't think this game's going to be easy tonight. I think Hunter's teams are always great. Tulane's team looks different than they did last year, but I think it's going to be a good game.
All right, well, we'll see what the Tigers are able to do. It's going to wrap this show up, talk about the best things that we saw this week. And I will start, as I always do. Best thing I saw this week, 2025 actually marks the 40th anniversary of the Jordan 1 shoe. And a little history lesson for you guys. The NBA actually banned the shoe because it was red and black and didn't conform to the rules when it was released. Nike paid the fines for Michael Jordan as he continued to wear the shoe on the court. So as part of Nike's celebration of the shoe, they've quote unquote banned the shoe once again. They've blacked it out on Jordan's statue in the United Center where the Bulls play, and employees that are caught wearing Jordans can receive quote-unquote violations. A very good ad campaign by Nike and Jordan Brand, who continue to show their top of the sports marketing game. That's actually a couple of their workers giving them a ticket, which I think is just so funny. We'll see what else Jordan Brand continues to do with this campaign that they're doing, but very clever because it's making you look to whatever they got going on.
Yeah, very, very clever. Well, all right, if you know me, you know I'm a tennis girly through and through, and watching American Madison Keys win her first Grand Slam after 46 appearances was hands down the best thing I saw this week. Keys knocked off two-time defending champ Aryna Sabalenka to become the second oldest player in the Open era to win her first Aussie Open. The win sees her jump up to number 7 in the world, which matches her career high. She's only ever made a Grand Slam final once before that. That was back in 2017, an All-American final against Sloane Stephens. She came out in the losing end. Gets to have it all come true right now at the Aussie Open, see all of her hard work pay off. Just a crazy story because she said for so long she thought that she had to win a Grand Slam for her to think that she was successful. She finally gave up that notion, was like, you know what I've done is incredible. I've reached number 7 in the world. I don't need that to feel like I'm whole and that I'm complete. And once she finally worked through all of that with a therapist, she goes and wins her first Grand Slam. Her head coach is her husband. How cool is that?
Where's she from?
Look at her skip down the
America.
hall.
Of course.
But she won the Aussie Open.
Aussie.
Yeah.
Oi, oi, oi.
All right, well, enough of the tennis. Get tennis out of here. The struggling Warriors taking on the top team in the league, OKC. They need a bucket to seal the game. Enter Gary Payton II. GP2 cuts the lane, takes the ball, and puts Isaiah Hartenstein in the basket on a poster. Make the T-shirts. Give me the poster above my bed. I want it all. The dunk sealed the game and ruined SGA's 50-piece. 52 points and we couldn't win. Oh. One of the best dunks of the season.
To you. But a great win.
It was a great dunk.
A great win.
We watched it together.
It was a great. I did. I watched it with you. It was a great win. Good for the Warriors.
Good for the Warriors and for you, Caleb.
That's gonna do it for this Thursday edition of the 24th Floor. But before we go, sadly, it also means it's the last show for these two, my co-pilots, Rachel and Caleb, moving on to greener pastures. It'll be the last time they feature here on the 24th Floor. Guys, I just want to say that I love doing this show with you guys. I love working with you guys. I love being in arenas with you guys. I love putting stuff together, brainstorming. You guys have made it so easy for me to do my job. You are fun, you're creative, you're smart, you guys are ambitious, and I couldn't have done any that I've done in the last year or so without the two of you. I'm gonna cry. But I love you guys, and I will miss you for sure.
Love you too. Thank you for everything. You've been my boss and Kayla's boss the last 10 months for me. And you've been a great boss. I feel like the three of us together have formed such a great bond and friendship that we'll have for life. It's been so fun working with the two of you. Become like brothers to me, honestly. I don't have brothers back home, and it's so nice to have both of you. Whether it's, talking crap with each other or poking fun at each other, it's always been a blast. So thank you, and thanks to everyone in Memphis for having us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I'm very lucky you gave me my start, and I appreciate it. And I've loved working with both of y'all, and both of y'all have been like mentors to me and helped me grow. And this show has just been awesome. I think it's a culmination of all of our personalities. And continue to watch the show, guys. If you're watching the show, 24th Floor, Avery's going to do a great job with it. Whether if it's him by himself or he has a guest on, it's always going to be good. This man always produces great content. So while it will look different from what we're doing now, it's still going to be a great show.
It'll be different, but it will be great. Yes, I will be back on Monday with a special guest to break things all down here in the Mid-South sports world. But for now, for the last time, for Rachel Phillips, for Caleb Hilliard, I'm Avery Braxton. We out.